webinar with me. My name is Nada Sumik, and I'm the National Field Manager for We Are All America. We Are All America works to uphold and strengthen our nation's commitment to welcome and protect those seeking freedom, safety, and refuge in the United States. We organize people across religious and cultural differences to build inclusive communities where we all belong. On today's webinar, our panelists will provide updates on the humanitarian crisis that has been unfolding in Afghanistan, as well as updates in regards to federal policy, various advocacy efforts, and we will also hear from the Afghan community. Please be advised that this webinar session will be recorded and shared among our networks. If you have questions, we will have someone monitoring the chat box, and we will have a Q&A session at the end. In the meantime, feel free to type your questions into the chat box. To set some context, on the 29th of February in 2020, the US signed an agreement with the Taliban to withdraw troops in 14 months from Afghanistan. On August 15, 2021, just under 20 years after an American-led coalition ended Taliban rule in Afghanistan, a revitalized Taliban took Kabul. The Taliban and the US military negotiated an agreement to evacuate American citizens and Afghans by August 31st from Kabul airport. While human rights advocates and resettlement community advocated to extend the deadline, this plea fell to deaf ears. On August 30th, the US withdrew its troops, leaving US citizens and vulnerable Afghans behind. Furthermore, families who have been brought to the States are facing many challenges due to complex legal proceedings and bureaucracies. In addition to that, the resettlement agencies are bracing themselves for a large number of families to arrive in their states with limited resources and capacities. That being said, I want to turn it over to my colleague Zainab Nazari, who is in her profession, a clinical pharmacist and also the point of contact for the IRC LA office, and is willing to assist with refugee resettlement process remotely. So Zainab, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit, to share with us a little bit about what is happening nationally and an update within the Afghanistan community. Zainab?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for putting all this together, everyone. My name is Zainab, and I am a clinical pharmacist. So probably in the past 2.5 weeks, we and our Afghan community in Orange County, LA area, San Diego area, we've all come together, and we've designated different point of contacts for the different 3 nonprofit organizations in Southern California who are willing to resettle the Afghan refugees being evacuated currently. So amongst them are IRIS, IRC, and IILA. So those are the 3 nonprofits. So we have a point of contact for each one of them, and each point of contact is designated to find whether it is housing, furnishing, anything for these families' homes if they're currently in a hotel, to find a house for them or an apartment, or if a family is willing to host them for a certain number of months, we have people, volunteers and mentors who are willing to do that on that end. So we're pretty much providing everything and anything these families need, whether it's benefits, signing them up for benefits, employment if they're required to be employed. We have people who have been able to offer them jobs as long as they've gone through the processing properly. And so that's pretty much what most of the Afghan community in California has been involved hands-on. We're constantly on calls, constantly in meetings, constantly we have Google Share Docs going out, pulling each other's data, making sure we're all being helped in every regard. And I know that we have a whole team in the DMV area, in Maryland, DC and Virginia area. We also have one in the New York area. New York has not been getting that many refugees because of the saturation there, but it's mainly been either going to Virginia mostly and California. And then after that, they get processed to whatever state they're getting sent to. But as of now, we have those in New Mexico also has a team. The Midwest also has their own team, but that's on a national level. I believe they're expecting about 40,000. I'm not too sure. But as of a few days ago, it's about 40,000 refugees that would be coming to the US.
Thank you so much, Zainab, for that information. I'm going to turn it over to Charles to talk a little bit about what is happening here in Arizona.
Hi, great, thanks. I'm trying to, so yeah, let me give a little bit of background and as it relates to Arizona. Zena talked about the states and how that works. So as the Taliban takeover escalated earlier this month, the U.S. rescue operations, which were actually quite organized for the special immigrants and the processing related to that in Afghanistan, quickly changed to an emergency evacuation, including for other Afghan nationals. The current numbers that are being floated out there are as many as 20,000 SIVs, could be more, 50,000 other Afghan nationals who are expected to be brought to the US and processed as parolees, humanitarian parole. With that mass evacuation from Kabul, the Afghans are going to lily pads, as they're calling them, in Europe and in Middle East centers, where there'll be front loading of reviews and biographic and biometric screenings and vettings with US security and intelligence agencies. And those that are vetted and approved will then move on to the Department of Homeland Security at Dulles for admission, and then onto a convention center for sorting as special immigrant visa holders or special immigrants, pre-special immigrants, parolees, and then on to Fort Lee or one of the other military bases, since there have been some others that have been added, Fort Bliss or McCoy, McGuire Dix, Lakehurst, for further processing. And as probably most of you know, with all of media coverage, the deadline for the evacuations was on August 31st. So just so you know, humanitarian parole is for individuals outside the US and it's based on urgent humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons for a temporary period, and it's case by case. When the Department of Homeland Security authorizes parole, it specifies the duration for lawful presence in the US, and the parolee technically remains as an applicant for admission. There's no immigration status that's conferred, but the parolees may seek adjustment to lawful status under a more permanent immigration status, in many cases to lawful permanent residency or the green card. So the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, or PRM as we commonly refer to them, is developing and is ready to stand up an Afghan parolee support program, or the APS program that they're calling it, which is probably a sad moniker for here in Arizona since we have two other APS programs, but to be administered by refugee resettlement agencies that's akin to the reception and placement program that's used for refugees and special immigrant visa holders. That covers a 30-day period and can be extended for up to 90 days based on need. APS, as I said, I think is expected to be stood up this week, but I'll let the resettlement agencies give the latest on that. That program will cover airport reception, safe and appropriate housing, adequate food supplies, seasonal clothing, pocket money for adults, material needs as support as needed, access to health services, but I want to emphasize as possible, assistance with enrollment in other services as they're eligible, school enrollment for minors, cultural orientation, and assistance with accessing legal services to apply for adjustment of status. That's not to say that it will pay for the benefit, but for the assistance with it. And just so you know, a lot of the things that we're talking about, there's going to be a lot more explanation about where we are here and now in the midst of some of these temporary services and the everything else, what's going to happen. There are currently no other federal government. There's currently no other federal government support committed to this population that's akin to TANF and RCA or Medicaid or Access, as we call it in Arizona, or refugee medical assistance, or other forms of public assistance. There are questions about whether indeed there are some federal programs that they could be eligible for. There are some that don't require status, like I think WIC, but if I'm speaking out of turn, I know somebody will correct me, and maybe some other programs that are under review, like Head Start. So the Office of Refugee Resettlement is also exploring an emergency medical program for the APS individuals. And at this time, however, any assistance that we would support this population would, and I'm saying from the state refugee program, would come from state or other support, another conversation. The parolees are expected to be processed for employment authorization. That's what we've been told, that they will be granted EADs before leaving the military bases, but the federal government has not yet confirmed this. It's expected that some parolees will move off military bases on their own and relocate to communities. So I just want to clarify. So there is the legacy pipeline of special immigrant visa holders from Afghanistan, as well as refugees that have been coming all along. Some of them were already in process. Some of them are arriving. We didn't get many here in Arizona during the time that the arrival numbers were very low. But there are also parolees and SIVs being processed. We don't expect, at least at this point, through the regular direct destination of Afghan SIVs coming off military bases. We don't expect very high numbers of that based on what we know. But again, the resettlement agencies can speak more clearly to that. We do, however, expect that the largest population will be the Afghan parolees, many of whom we would think in our intelligence around this would have gotten SIV status, but because again, remember that was an emergency evacuation and there was no time. There was basically a process, but it was a quick process, and that's why they're going to lily pads, as they're calling them, in Europe and in the Middle East for that vetting. So just in all of this, it's really, really, really important to remember that this is an emergency effort. This is a U.S. evacuation effort. All of the pieces were not figured out. All of the pieces are still not worked out from the U.S. government side. They're working on it. There are pieces that are in play. Again, I'm going to let the resettlement agency speak to this, but those that participate in the what's called the APS, the Afghani Parole Support Program, can acquire U.S. ties to provide housing and to serve those cases at impacted locations, which Arizona is not considered one, that don't have adequate housing capacity. And there's more that they can speak to on that if they want to. We cannot speak specifically about numbers because we only have preliminary numbers, and it's too premature for us to say in terms of that. Again, we don't expect a lot of SIVs through the evacuation process unless they move here from other states, and that's plausible. We do expect a quite high number of parolees, and I think there's even some press out there today that says that Arizona is expected to be a top destination. I don't think that that's something that the feds or nationally is being purported. I think it's based on interest and concern and some of the conversations that have been happening on the ground here in Arizona. We continue the state program in the state. So our department, the governor's office, continue to seek the best information possible from the federal government. And in the meantime, our office is working very closely with our department leadership, with the governor's office, with the Arizona Refugee Resettlement agencies, and a number of private organizations that are marshaling support and working to coordinate efforts for the arriving SIVs and parolees. There's some other work that's being done. The governor has thrown his support behind this fully, as has our Speaker of the House, who is very supportive. And so there are efforts to look at what if the federal government has limited support, what additional support would be available for the parolees in particular, since the SIVs are eligible for the regular refugee program, and what these public and private efforts might look like. And so there's a lot of work being done, just so you know, around planning and coordination and providing support and services and looking at systematic methods to gather and vet and share information along with the other component pieces to address what is a very, I would say, a super fluid situation. We ourselves are bringing and detailing some staff to help us assist this in looking at this, to work on these many pieces. So if you're asking, where's the information, how are we going to get information, that's something that we're working on to address in a coordinated and particular way with public information. So our hope is that we can be a resource and lead and help in some of the communications around this, as well as conveying where the opportunities and entry points are for lending support and help. I want to emphasize that there are many philanthropic and CEOs, corporation CEOs who are coming around this effort, who have committed to support this. Again, not all the details are public because people are working on these things, in addition to what we would consider the legacy refugee program support and partners. And by that, we mean not just the resettlement agencies, not just ECBOs, the faith community, other volunteer organizations. And of course, I'm sure like many of you, we're getting many inquiries and offers of help, and we're responding to that right now. Joelle is detailed to be the point person on that. But as I mentioned, again, we're working to detail staff for us to bolster our efforts to be able to look at this and manage this, both in terms of information, but also how can we be working to consolidate and coordinate efforts here in Arizona, including with the Afghan community. I don't know if Asmin, if you were going to say something about that, but I know that Mohammed's going to speak about it. But
Yes,
I want to give you a couple. I want to give you some time to talk about that. Yeah.
Sure. Should I go?
Yes, welcome, Asmin. Go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jasmine Hamkar. I'm the Deputy State Refugee Coordinator with the Arizona Refugee Resettlement Program. I'm also very involved with the Afghan community here in Arizona in the past 20 years. So I just wanted to give you an update about what is the Afghan community right now is preparing and doing to help the new arrival. So the Afghan community already met, and this is something that we also created a form, I would say, a volunteer interest form that Joelle is going to talk about it later on. So this is something that people wanted to help. They're ready to help. They're very well established here in Arizona, and people are ready to help with even hosting families, like weeks, 2 weeks, or maybe more than that in their houses. So people wanted to help with interpretation, translation in different languages, and we already discussed the need for the clearance cards or fingerprinted, so they are well aware of that. People are ready to provide with donation, and they're the one that they know about the culture and everything. I just wanted to say that soon we will provide more about the Afghan community, that it is, they are trying to get together and kind of assign people for different areas to help people with health related stuff, with like childcare, with transportation, with translation, with education, with employment, and all of those things that it's helping with case management and employment and self-sufficiency of refugees here in Arizona. I also wanted to say one thing in here, that in the past few days we are seeing that Facebook groups are created on behalf of the Afghan community, which it is not a real Afghan community that I can say, and I just wanted to make sure that people are connected to the right resources and right organization. So and also, just wanted to say, in Arizona we have only one, in Phoenix, the Afghan community. So soon I will share more detail about that organization, and so Naira, maybe you can share it with the team or with folks that are participating in this call. So also one other thing that maybe you may saw the rally that the Afghan community organized on Saturday, and it was very well attended, more than 200 people, and that event was attended. So media was involved, a lot of interviews happened, and one of the things that Afghan community is really worrying is about their relatives, their families that they're still in Afghanistan and their life is in danger or in danger. So people are really worrying about that. And during that rally, they did ask the government to look into that, because they still worry about their families left behind. And the majority of those folks are the one that they did help the U.S. government in the past 20 years. So this is something that right now it's going on with the Afghan community. Again, if you see a Facebook, if you see a member of Afghan just created something, please let us know that I'm here to also, as I said, I'm a member of that community, and I will be happy to share more information about the Afghan community and their support. They're there to help. So let me know if you wanted to get connected with the Afghan community. So just email me or email Joel. We will be the point person for that.
Thank you, Yasmin. And I just want to clarify, there is also a Tucson Afghan community, and I think there is a Facebook page called Tucson Afghan Community. So I just want to clarify, there are folks who are part of that in Tucson as well, but I understand where you're coming from as far as here, Yasmin. And then I know we're saving questions till the end, but Charles, I think this is more for you. Christy asked, can people at the lily pads continue to apply for SIV, or will they have to apply for humanitarian parole? And you can answer it in the chat box. And then as far as contacting Yasmin, if this question came from Stacy, we will be happy to provide points of contact after the webinar. And I know also Mohammed will talk a little bit about organizing that's happening in the Afghan community as well. And now I want to turn it over a little bit to some of the resettlement agencies. I know they all couldn't be on here as panelists due to so many things going on. So if you are a resettlement agency on the as an attendee, feel free to share. But we're going to just address a little bit around the current needs, the gaps, and how other folks can get involved. So I'm going to turn it over to Barbara from the IRC to talk a little bit about that within the city of Phoenix and Tucson. So Barbara. And I ask you all to just put your phones on mute if you haven't, or your computers if you're not speaking. Barbara.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all here. And it's great to see everybody pulling together to help with this really important work to do. The IRC in Phoenix, and we have two offices, one in Phoenix and one in Tucson. We have begun to receive some Afghans, and it's a small number now. We expect more to be coming in the next few weeks, but the numbers are very tenuous. We don't know what numbers they're going to be. And then what we're doing with the inquiries is we're pretty much directing everybody to our websites to give for our most urgent needs, which of course are cash donations that'll cover the cost of housing, rent and food, and culturally appropriate clothing, things like that. We're also asking for in-kind donations via our Amazon wish list. There's one for Phoenix and one for Tucson, and donations. But other than that, there's really no specifics that we have that we can give because it's just too fluid a situation. I could put the wish lists and the Amazon links in the chat if you'd like, but outside of that, that's pretty much where we're directing everyone for help. And we are very impressed with the outpouring of assistance that is coming in. It's really wonderful to see. And I hope that it sustains over the next few months because it's something that we're all going to need very much.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Yes, and please put it in the chat box. That way people can reference that. And I'm going to turn it over to Joanne Morales from Catholic Charities. Joanne?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And first and foremost, thanks to everybody on the call with interest and concerns and care for the clients that we'll be soon getting. I am with Catholic Charities Refugee Programs. We've been resettling refugees in the Phoenix area since 1979, including the SIV population. My statements are similar to Barbara's and what Charles was saying. I think the first thing that's really important for people to know is that this is a very fast moving and fast changing situation. So the information we're getting changes quite a bit. Our agency is expecting to resettle a combination of SIVs, parolees, and accompanied refugee children. I think one of the main pieces that we have is we have a lot of inquiries for how can we help, what can we do, when are they coming? We don't know, like as of right now, exactly when people are going to come. As Charles mentioned, people are in the process to be vetted, to be cleared, determining when they're going to come, under what status, and what they're going to have with them. In terms of what people can do now, for volunteering with refugee agencies and working with programs, we do require level 2 fingerprint clearance cards because refugees are identified in the state of Arizona as extremely vulnerable in terms of children that we're serving, as well as adults who are new to the US. We are also taking in-kind donations of hygiene supplies, diapers, small furnishings, and we are working to partner collaboratively, so we're not necessarily duplicating and doing that as well. We do have a refugee foster care program, and we have been asked to assess our capacity for individuals who would like to be foster parents. There is a process to get licensed, and while our foster care program is private, all foster families still need to be licensed through the Arizona Department of Office and Licensing and Regulation. So it does consist of a foster parent college, home life and safety inspection, background checks. So it does take between 3 to 6 months to become a licensed foster parent. And I'm sharing this information because a lot of people are calling and asking to be foster parents. So if people truly are interested in that process, it's good to kind of explore that and see that. With the foster youth, we are being told most of them are teens. So if there are unaccompanied refugee minors that will be resettled, they'll more likely be between the ages of 14 to 18. And resettlement into foster care really is the last option. So I don't know when we will see these youth, because in addition to the regular vetting, they're also going to have to vet and ensure that there's no family or relatives in the US who they should be placed with, because foster care is the last option. The other thing is we're also continuing to resettle refugees in general. So I think it is important for those that are interested in volunteering to know, like, what is the resettlement process? What are the limited resources, and what does the reception and placement, what do resettlement agencies, what can they do, what can't they do? And what are some of the longer term supports that we're looking for, I think is important. As it was mentioned, the parolee program will be separate from the RMP program. So we may have individuals in one program, individuals in another program, and individuals in another program. So we're also trying to make sure that we're being equitable among all groups and kind of looking how we can all collaborate and support each other. So a lot of information coming in, but at the same time, a lot of lags in what we can and can't do. We're also being inundated with calls for donations. We also have an Amazon wish list on our website. So we are moving as quickly as possible to respond to calls and emails. But at the end of the day, we're simply not sure when people will actually be coming in. But we are looking forward to partnering with our community, with our local community, to support all of our Afghanis and refugees as they're coming in. So thank you in advance to everybody.
Thank you, Joanne. And if you want to drop that link in the chat box, that would be helpful. I see Dragan from Lutheran Social Services has his hand up. Do you want to share a little bit, Dragan, around LSS efforts?
Oh, sorry, can you raise your hand? That way I can add you onto the speaker call. Thank you.
Okay, give us a moment, folks.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We just can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm not sure that camera can work, but I just wanted to also provide updates for Lutheran Social Services. And first, thank you, Nera, for organizing this event, and just to keep everybody else who is participating informed that as well as other resettlement agencies are providing update about activities. We do have office in Phoenix and Tucson, and both of our offices will receive parolees from Afghanistan. And also, like Joanne says, we are doing lots of preparations. Our hard numbers are not yet set up. We are expecting any minute to receive this contract with the Department of State based on our proposed numbers, and we will be onboarding staff to respond adequately to this population, and of course identify gaps once when we have this more concrete information about when and how our refugees will be coming in the next few weeks, days, months. We don't know much of the details at this point, but of course we are open to all kinds of the community collaboration and efforts to best serve this population, as well as John said, other refugees that we are serving on a regular basis. So I'm here and will be open for any questions, but just want to keep informed that we are on board and looking forward for more collaboration with our communities here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dragan. So I'm going to, we do also have here ECVO organizations. For those of you who are not familiar, that stands for Ethnic Community-Based Organizations. So I'm going to turn it over to Rise and then to Juliana from the Somali American Council to talk a little bit about efforts within the ECVO organizations. It's really important that, as Charles was saying earlier, that we try to streamline things and work in collaborative efforts. And so we just want to make sure that we're all kind of staying in communication with each other. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Dominic Abraham from Rise and Mohammed, who is from the Afghan community, to talk a little bit about the work in Rise and also organizing within the Afghan community. Dominic?
Hi. Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for organizing this call. Like Naida said, we're an ethnic community-based organization. We're called Refugees and Immigrants Community for Empowerment, RICE for short. And our staff members are refugees and immigrants. You know, they connect to the population that calls our office and walks in through our doors, and they speak French and Arabic and Lingala and Swahili and Persian and Turkish and Urdu, to name a few of the languages. And we support our community through different services, such as helping them apply for public assistance with SNAP and Access, and applying online for jobs, helping them build out resumes, and helping to provide rent and utilities assistance for those who qualify. And we also have a dental clinic on Saturdays where people can come and get exams or get their teeth cleaned, or even get extractions. So like I said, we employ refugees and immigrants, and so I'll introduce Mohammed, who is an SIV from Afghanistan, who was one of our staff members, and he can share a bit about his past experience and what he sees now here in Phoenix.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mohammed, and I'm a outreach coordinator and RISE, Refugee Immigrants Community Empowerment. Before I start about Phoenix, I would like to introduce my background. I was a combat translator with U.S. Marines in Afghanistan for 7 years. I got here last year through a special immigration visa, and I ended up here now. I'm here. So because of SIV, what's happening in Afghanistan, as Sir Charles mentioned, SIV and Parole, most of them were based in Kabul. They were able to make it, and they're here now. Some of them, not all of them. Still, a lot of SIV applicants are in other provinces of Afghanistan that they're trying hard to get here. And we'll be expecting more as well, and probably their families. They're trying to get out of there. Arizona, since I came here, unfortunately, I was looking for help. I could not find any community or something like that. So I used to go to the bars, community parks, this kind of places to get help since I was new. If there is, maybe I was not active or something like that, or it was not, as I mentioned, was not organized. So anyhow, I could not find any sort of help from any Afghan community. That's why I used to go to the mosque, all Afghan gathering places to find some sort of help. So same kind of situation, I don't want the newcomers to deal with it. So for this, a lot of people now step up to help Afghan communities, which is a very good thing. As Jasmine mentioned, that we have Afghan community like a kind of place. So if there is any place, please let us know. That way we can join with you. Since some news channels contact us, hey, we wanna see the Afghan community and all that, because we didn't know that. So we gave an interview there, and now a lot of people they're contacting me, and I don't know where to send them, like how you can get help. To be honest, I didn't know that personally. That's why we're meeting in mosque, something like that. So a lot of let's say Uber drivers, like from Afghan community, they step out, they want to help them for transportation, for language thing. Like they're coming and our RISE, like this Refugee Immigrants Community Center, and they're contacting us like, hey, how can we help? So if Jasmine has any contact address or number or any physical place that's organized, we can send them over there, and they can help them out. Other thing about the Afghan community, so ex-militaries that I know, and a lot of ex-militaries, they already started fundraising on Facebook, and a lot of from different states, they're helping Afghan communities, and they're willing to help Afghan community in Arizona. So they already started. So again, if we have any specific spot or place, physical place, we can share this information with them. That way, those funds can go directly to there. So a lot of ex-militaries that I've worked with them, and a lot of other interpreters who came here as an SIP, so their ex-military advisors want to help. So please provide us any sort of information. That way we can share with our ex-military advisors. That way we can help Afghans at the moment. Yeah, that's pretty much it I have. And if I have any updates, I'll keep updating. So please, at the moment, we need some sort of contact address or something like that way we can get all these help to them, or the point is to help Afghan newcomers. So I've faced a lot of hard time and troubles, me and my wife, and with a kid. We didn't know where to go, where to get help, because there was no community. Now, if it's now they built it, I don't know that. If there was a before, maybe I was not active or something like that. So my friends have been working 3 years now, hey, let's make community, let's contact each other. there are communities that's like kind of like tribal communities, small communities. In general, there is no big picture. If there is, please share with us. That way we can share all information and whatever help we receive, and we can take this and give it to you guys. That way you guys can help the newcomers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And I think, you know, with things moving so rapidly, there's a lot going on, right? In Tucson with the Afghan community, in Phoenix with the Afghan community. So I think if you and Asmin can connect and help organize, because I think there's a lot of people on here as well from the Afghan community who want to be connected. So I think getting organized, maybe setting up a space and a meeting for people to be able to meet in the coming weeks may be helpful. So maybe that's something you can help lead or co-lead with Asmin Mohammed. So thank you so much for being here. We're glad that you're here in the States and we welcome you. And I would like to also turn it over to Juliana, who is from the Somali American United Council here in Arizona, who's going to talk a little bit about the work happening there. And then we will talk a little bit about how you can get involved, those of you on the call. So Juliana?
Yes, thank you, Nita. First, I just want to thank everybody for, number one, being on this call. That tells me that you are interested in helping the Afghan community. And thank you to the resettlement agencies and all of the smaller organizations that have just worked tirelessly over the last 2.5 weeks. I've been in contact with many. They have filled out more DoD forms than I know that I could count or that they could count. They have sent spreadsheets to Senator Kelly's office, to Representative Stanton's office, trying to help the Afghan Americans that are here currently worried and desperate for to help their families that are still in Afghanistan. That has been our primary focus over the last 2.5 weeks. Resettlement has been, seems somewhat far away. We serve anywhere between 30 and 50 Afghan families that have come either through the SIV program or that are here as refugees. And some have just recently received their citizenship, so they've attended our citizenship classes and getting ready to apply to sponsor their families. And now they're worried about how that also is going to look for them. So just thank you to everybody. Our focus, we have felt like at the Somali American United Council, is to focus on the families that are here now, because they have missed work, they have not slept. Their mental health is extremely important to us. These mothers and fathers or sons and daughters who have families that are still in Afghanistan are also very fearful for them. So we are working with immigration lawyers. We are working, we've sent emails to USCIS and trying to figure out how to help them again, and to allow them. We've opened our doors to many new faces as well, because our doors are open and they have not known where to go to receive help. That's been a kind of an overreaching theme for many of our resettled refugees and also SIV clients here. And so we're working with them, trying to keep them up on what their options are for their families, if any, and giving them maybe a little bit of hope through the humanitarian parole option. And then again, working with immigration attorneys to find out what the best path for them might be here to help their families overseas. So that's one, really an ask too, if anybody has more information on that or would like to help in that process, we could use help there. The gap as well, Nita had asked to talk about maybe some gap through resettlement to some of these ECBOs would be, I know there are families being resettled, and I know that because of their vulnerable nature in that population, we can't have access to their information, and we understand that as well. But working with case managers, I believe that if they're close enough to the Somali American United Council, we have families that are willing to help as well. Many of our Afghani clients are here and they want to help because they can't necessarily feeling helpless in their own situation with their families. They're ready to welcome. And I think we know that if there's some type of a mentoring or a friendship, kinship there, they will be more successful as they are resettled here in Phoenix. There's been an outpouring of volunteerism, humanitarianism in our local Phoenix community and in Tucson. I'm so proud of Arizona, and for those who maybe had never understood the process of refugee resettlement, I think now is a really incredible opportunity for us to capitalize on that as well, into educating Arizonans on the importance of understanding this process and program, dispelling myths and fear for receiving new families. And so pushing Refugee 101 or whatever in schools, in church groups, and in communities or even in businesses, I think would benefit our communities tremendously as well. Both general population and those who work with refugees as well. I am not one that typically looks to the U.S. government for my my examples, if you will, but there is a lot of red tape kind of being cut and jumped through some of these hoops, and I think we can get creative and maybe think outside the box and work together, like Charles had said, to really become laser focused in our efforts. What are the most critical needs? How we have people willing to house, people willing, Airbnb had an incredible, idea to share. And I think tapping into more of those outside the box thinking as we resettle could also really help host families. And we know that there's been an outpouring of donations and money, but also they need mentors and people. And I would really love to tap, do you mind sharing that? Tap the into our Afghan clients here to help with that effort as well.
Thank you so much, Juliana. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. If you have any links or any information that you would like to share, please include it in the chat box for our attendees where they can connect.
Right,
and I know we only have 10 more minutes, so I want to turn it over to Joelle to talk about a little bit about how you or your organization can help. We really want to streamline this, as Charles said, and make sure we're organizing around this. So Joelle is the Community Outreach Coordinator with the Arizona Refugee Resettlement Program. So Joelle, if you want to talk a little bit about the volunteering opportunities, how people can sign up.
Awesome, thanks Naira. Hi everyone, so glad to be here with you all today. So as you have heard, everybody has ways in which they're looking to receive help. So in no ways should this discourage you from going directly to the organizations on this call or any organizations that you know of. So if you want to connect with them directly, I highly encourage you to do so. But as we continue to move forward in this highly fluid situation, trying to come together and coordinate efforts in, as Charles said, into smaller pots, we did create a volunteer interest form. This was initially specifically used within the Afghan community here down in Phoenix, but we wanted to give you all an opportunity to also utilize it if you are at all interested. I'm going to put the link in the chat box. It is a Google form. It's really simple. You just are going to fill it out, and it focuses on very specific areas such as temporary housing, translation, interpretation, transportation, and donations, whether that is you donating goods or hosting a pickup and drop off site. So these are just areas that we know that we're going to be looking to have people fill. As everybody has been saying, we're not sure when people are going to come, but it's better to know who we can turn to once people are here. So that's kind of what I would suggest. If you do have questions, if you have troubles with the document, if you know of other resources you want to donate and share, I have had requests of job opportunities that people are interested in giving to those coming in. I've had people share that they can foster families, as I know Joanne had mentioned that earlier, for unaccompanied refugee minor program that we have here in Phoenix. So I have gotten a lot of requests in various ways, as I know many people have. So if you do have anything, please feel free to share it with me and I can help connect you to the organizations most relevant. So I'll put my contact information in the chat. I'll do my email and my phone number. So please feel free to call or text me or email me at any time.
Thank you so much, Joelle. So if you're interested in volunteering or providing resources, go ahead and connect with Joelle, and she's putting that in the chat box. And before we open it up for questions, I know a few folks share resources, and also if, as I mentioned earlier, if you are a resettlement agency or an ECBO, or if you are a faith organization involved and you have gaps or needs or ways people can connect, please drop it in the chat box. We want to make sure we're capturing all of those. And I want to also turn it over a little bit to just talk about advocacy efforts. I know people have talked about how they can help directly in our local communities, but and while we greatly appreciate the outpouring support from volunteers, there's still a lot of advocacy work that needs to be done. So I'm just going to touch a little bit around what's happening with federal advocacy and then local advocacy that we're pushing for in another way that you can get involved. So right now we know that about 123,000 individuals have been evacuated from Afghanistan. Only about, out of those 123,000, about 5,500 are self-identified American citizens. And while it doesn't appear that the Biden administration has released exact numbers of our Afghan partners who were evacuated, they have publicly confirmed that fewer than 50% of evacuated Afghans were special immigrant visas applicants or their families. So please note these numbers are very fluid and they're not precise figures, but this is what has been publicly stated. So on a federal level, some of the advocacy asks that we are pushing for are, number one, authorizing Afghans arriving on humanitarian parole to receive refugee resettlement services. And this is something Charles had talked about earlier around humanitarian parole. The second is we're pushing for legislation to pass an Afghan Adjustment Act that would allow Afghan parolees who are being evacuated to simply and quickly adjust their status to become legal permanent residents rather than languish through this process for years. Thirdly, we are pushing for additional funding for the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program. And finally, the fourth thing, we are advocating for continuous diplomatic efforts in order to evacuate. There's still a small number of U.S. citizens in Afghanistan and other vulnerable Afghans who were not able to get out. And so including families who still need to be reunited. So that is something we are continuing to advocate for at a federal level. Now, at a local level, there's a couple things that ways you can get engaged. We unfortunately have already started to see the rise in xenophobia and Islamophobia and anti-refugee narrative that's been put out. And for the most part, our communities have been welcoming, but we cannot ignore that that is also on the rise. So we urgently need localities, cities, state legislators to extend a welcome to refugees and extend out welcoming messages for families into our communities. So if you are a member of the city council here from any of the cities, if you're an elected official, we're asking you to welcome these communities. And we are working on creating a welcoming sign-on letter and toolkit, and we will share it out with you all once it's prepared. And the second thing is we are asking elected officials to work with our resettlement agencies and the Afghanistan community to address the gaps and needs as we prepare for arrivals. And that being said, I know a lot of information has been shared today and a lot of you have shared resources, and there's a couple I will mention. I know Someone shared the Association of the Afghans in Arizona. They did put their number and contact. Thank you for sharing. Also, there's an Afghan Refugee Fund link from the Iranian American Society of Arizona that was also shared, and also other resources. So feel free to connect also with the resettlement agencies. And lastly, I think we have like 3 minutes left, so I do want to make sure that questions are being answered. So let's open it up for Q&A. If you have a question, please put it in the chat box at this time. Or you can raise your hand. And Asmin, I see that you have your hand up.
Yes, I have a quick question. Thank you, everyone, that you shared information in the chat, you know, the resources and everything. I saw that the Iranian American Society of Arizona created fundraising, or it says the Afghan Refugee Funds. So I wanted, is there anyone from the Iranian American Society of Arizona in this call? If we have someone, I just have a question that how are they going to use this fund? You know, what is their connection with the Afghan refugee? And I just wanted to make sure how they are operating. What is the system, or what is going to look like?
So Asmin, I believe that they were trying to dial in, but I'm not sure if there was a dial in option with the webinar, but I can connect you to the person who is connected to the Iranian community, unless someone is here, but I believe that they were not able to dial in at this time.
Yeah, thank you.
I think there was also a question, will refugees be looking for work? If so, what will help? What help will they need to jump through any hoops related to the process of being admitted to work? I'm not sure who wants to answer that. Just quickly, I know we have 2 minutes.
We are talking, I'm guessing they actually might be referring to people that have parole, humanitarian parole. The updated information is that there is going to be an expedited process for parolees coming out of the military bases. So the understanding is that they will have employment authorization. The question is for people that have already come, how does that dovetail into this expedited process, which we'll be working on to find out. So if indeed that's the case, that they will be getting EADs, there shouldn't be any particular hurdles as far as employment. It's a matter of what are the available services, because right now there's just the APS program. So it's longer services. When do people come in? I just want to say one other quick thing. So amidst all this, in people's generosity and goodwill, and it's a lot, there are things going on to help people get scholarships to, you know, university or pathway programs or high schools or things like that, which are amazing and great. But again, in the refugee program, we have, you know, we have a statute that dictates how that works if you get assistance. So one of the things we have to be thinking about is if there are going to be federal programs implemented, or let's say a state level program or whatever it might be to fill gaps, whatever they're being told now, what's could or maybe going to change for them if they now want to get that assistance. Let's say somebody's now like, I got a scholarship and I'm getting supported. Does that change anything for people? What's the messaging? What's the parity issue? So a lot of things, pieces that have to be worked out. So just those are things that are also in our mind. But if they get EADs right away, no, they should be great for employment.
Thank you so much, Charles. And I know that we are at time and folks have a lot of other meetings and things going on. So we are going to wrap up the webinar. Thank you to all of our speakers for taking the time out of your busy days to be here. Thank you for all the attendees. For next steps, we will follow up with the recording of this and share everyone's contact. In addition to that, we will plan to have potentially another meeting if needed in the coming weeks as things shift. And as mentioned earlier, things are very fluid. So bear with us, and thank you so much for attending, everyone, and you have a great day. We will wrap up the webinar now.
Thank you.